Hari Om, everyone. Welcome back after December break. Hope all of you had a good time and also got to stay in touch with whatever we have studied or anything else that you might have been doing over the December break. So we're almost concluding Saddarshanam, last few verses. Very unique text in several ways. The good thing is I don't have to recap much because every verse of Saddarshanam is kind of independent. If it is some other text, you have to go back, recap many verses if they are connected. Saddarshanam is each verse is independent. So we'll just go back a few verses and then get started. Oh, 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमु रामाय तस्मै नमः रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मातर समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् सत्प्रत्यया किं नु विहाय सन्तं हृद्येशचिन्तारहितो हृदाख्यः कथं स्मरामस्तममेयमेकम् तस्य स्मृतिस्तत्र दृढैव निष्ठा. The main teaching of Advaita Vedanta in Upanishad is our essential nature is pure consciousness. Many a times, in spite of hearing this for several years, in spite of studying different texts, a sadhaka can come to feel abidance is difficult. The remembrance that I am this truth and the ability to hold on to it and go through life, that looks difficult. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ji, with lot of compassion, gives us a particular prakriya. Prakriya means method, such that we can align ourselves back to this truth and benefit from what we have learned. If you notice in Saddarshanam, the teaching part is very less. Did Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ji talk about Panchakosha, Avasthatraya? None of those details are there. But to the one or for the one who has studied everything, to get abidance in this Atma Tattva, technique of Ramana Maharshi Ji excels. You know what his technique is? Every verse is hinting to the same technique. He says you start anywhere. Bring any question. First thing he will do is, who is the experiencer who is going through this experience? He will not always say, who is the one asking question. One example we had seen was, if somebody has question about prarabdha and purushartha, which is more powerful, destiny or my free will? What is Bhagwan's question? Who is the one who has destiny? Who is the one who is putting forth self-effort? And if we have done Shravanam, we have heard that there are two entities here. One is called as Ahankara, and the substratum of that Ahankara is Atma. Ahankara is not my essential identity. If it was my essential nature, I could never stay away from it. It will always be there with me. But deep sleep is such a great example that I can stay away from Ahankara, yet I am blissful. So he says, if you bring your attention first to this experiencer, Ahankara, and shift it to Atma, from the standpoint of Atma, everything dissolves. Now, this again will appreciate how much of Shravanam is needed to understand Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ji. Because he's making that one statement, from the standpoint of Atma, everything disappears. But how does it disappear? For that, we need elaboration. You either take Srishti Prakriya and you say, first we established that everything is born out of consciousness. Right? Tattvabodha time they have been telling. From consciousness with Maya Upadhi, 5 elements came. Then from those 5 elements, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, different components emerged. Shall we do a quick quiz? Sattvic aspect of 5 elements. Jnanendriyas emerged. Individual 5 elements. Total 5 elements, Sattvic aspect, Antahkarana emerged. Out of that 4 things in Antahkarana, one small entity is Ahankara. But you see the havoc it can create. If you just look at the whole creation process, one small facet is this ego. But that is sufficient to bind us for good. Then from Rajasic aspect, individual 5 elements, Karmendriyas emerged. Total Rajasic aspect of 5 elements, Pancha Prana emerged. Then from the Tamasic aspect of 5 elements, when grossification took place, Panchikaranam took place, this gross universe emerged. But whatever has emerged from a non-changing entity cannot be real emergence. That is a key point. We have to keep reflecting upon this. Whenever a thing emerges from a non-changing entity, nirvikara, that emergence is not vikara, it is, I'm looking for that word, vivarta. Vedantsara, we saw this in detail. If milk changes into yogurt, that is called as vivarta or vikara? Vikara. Because real change has happened. Milk has become yogurt, it cannot go back. But if that rope changes into snake, that is not vikara, that is vivarta. Because really speaking, there is no change which has happened. It's only an appearance. Rope has not undergone any change. That is why the emergence of snake from that rope is only an appearance. With this understanding, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ji says, just look at everything around. It's an emergence from that consciousness. And because this consciousness is nirvikara, everything other than this, which has emerged from consciousness, is only an appearance. Repeated conviction in this point. One part is self-abidance. I am this self. But what about this world? What about different experiences which are coming? Bhagavan says, don't worry about world, don't worry about experiences. Come to experiencer. If that experiencer is understood to be a fictitious entity, if that experiencer is understood to be just an appearance, he says the whole world will lose its power. All experiences will lose their power, just like in dream. Dream also, we went through so many experiences, but once we know dreamer is false, we don't give much attention to dream experience. But all these details, we have to keep connecting. Ramana Maharshiji's teachings are very, very terse. As I was mentioning earlier, when I prepare for Saddarshanam, for every point, I go back to Bhagavan's writings. And there are many publications where at the end, the bibliography is by topics. So if the topic is about, let us say, deep sleep, where all Bhagavan has spoken about deep sleep will be given in, the page number will be given, where all he has spoken. But if you read around 15 writings of Ramana Maharshi Ji, you will find 5 points. Means it is so terse that you really need to drill deeper and bring the data from other text to understand what is he talking about deep sleep. But I think we are very blessed that we have the background of both. Systematic study of Vedanta, at the same time this technique to benefit from our study of Vedanta. So well, shall we start with recap? 35th verse. I think 2 verses we will chant, 35th and 36th. Together only. Sorry. Navedmyaham mam utavedmyaham mam iti drugdrishya bhedat dvidhatma स्वात्मैक्यतायां हि धियां न भेदाः हृत्प्राप्य सद्धाम निजस्वरूपे स्वभावसिद्धेनुपलभ्य निष्ठां मायाविलाससदसत्स्वरूप विरूपनानैकमुखप्रवादा. Bhagavan says to say that I know this truth very well, or even to make this statement, I don't know this truth. Both are erroneous. Na vedmyaham mam uta vedmyaham mam. I don't know it or I know it. Because he says to know something, there have to be 2 things. To know something, 2 entities are needed, knower and the known. So here he says, if you have established that the truth is non-dual, that there is only one, there is nothing other than this Atma Tattva, how can you make this statement that I know Atma very well? If you make it, then very subtly you are sitting in Ahankara and trying to look at Atma. Rather, his advice to us is own up nature as Atma, then look at the world. Not the other way around. In Upanishad, the example was firewood and fire. Fire can say, I burnt wood very well. Or it did not burn the wood very well, it was wet. But fire cannot say, I burnt myself very well. Because nature of fire is to burn. In the same way, nature of consciousness is to know. Ahankara's knowing is borrowed knowing. It doesn't have its own ability to know also. So from this standpoint, Bhagavan is just pushing us. He says, don't sit in ahankara and try to know Atma. Through ahankara, gain knowledge and understand that other than Atma, there is nothing else. Where is the question of even knowing that Atma? It is because of Atma alone, we are knowing everything. In this way, he says we should understand. Drugdrishya bhedat kimayam dvidhatma. He is again pushing us further here. He says, are there two things? One called as drashta, another called as drishya. He says, the sadhaka will say, that is where I started. Drugdrishya viveka, they gave me 5 rules. You are drashta, everything else is drishya. Drashta is unaffected by drishya. All these rules they gave, aren't there two things? He said they were given as two because our understanding was so mixed up that we saw it as one only. Means we did not see drashta at all, we saw only drishya. So first what Vedanta has to do is separate drashta from drishya. But having done that separation, the next step is to understand that drishya doesn't have independent reality. Rather, drashta alone is appearing as drishya. The separation was done so that we get vairagya from drishya. At least some desire is there to turn inwards. But after turning inwards, knowing where to turn inwards, that drishya should not remain as another independent thing. If it does, then we have stepped away from Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta we have stepped away from. We have entered into some other school of thought, where matter is also real, consciousness is also real. Whereas Vedanta says, consciousness alone is real, matter is an appearance. That is why when people say, are you Vedantin? We have to be very careful before nodding our head. Safe answer is, I am a student of Vedanta. Because Vedantin means it demands this kind of conviction. We should also not say, I am not a Vedantin. Otherwise, why are we studying? The whole purpose is to go towards that goal. We might be on our path, but at least we are in the right path. Matter and consciousness, both are real, both are independent out of Vedanta. Matter is an appearance in consciousness. That is the teaching of Vedanta. Swatmaikya tayam hidhyam na bheda. Bhagavan says, if you want to establish that oneness, Mahavakya, such kind of thinking is unavoidable. What kind of thinking? Establishing ourselves in Atma and knowing that all drishya is just an appearance. Then Bhagavan said, before getting into any discussions, hair-splitting discussions, first we should get self-abidance. Hrutprapya saddham nijaswarupe swabhava siddhe anupalabhya nishtham. Without getting this nishtha in Atma Swarupa, whatever discussions we might do, it will always leave us hollow. Maya vilasas sadasat swarupa virupananaika mukha pravada. Discussion about different things about even nature of truth. Is it one? Is it many? Is it non-dual? Is it dual? He says all those discussions are meaningful only when we get this abidance first. This is where we had seen the difference between Shabda and Shabdartha. Do you remember that or not? Last class we had seen this. If I say the word water, water is only Shabda. If I'm thirsty, by saying water, my thirst won't get quenched. What I need is the Shabdartha of water. Shabdartha of water is this. Only when I drink the Shabdartha, the object, that is when my thirst gets quenched. Similarly, when we say Atma, Atma is only Shabda. That Shabda should lead me to Shabdartha. No, that's tricky for Atma, because water is an object. You say water, one object will come, water. But you say Atma, no object is going to come. So what should the word Atma do? It should remove all anatma. Word Atma or even Brahma, any word for that matter, which indicates nature of truth, will only do Vyavartana. It will negate things and shift our attention to that truth. He says, without doing this subtle, very fine inquiry, if we get into too many discussions first about that truth, he says we have missed the boat. That is Bhagavan's advice to us in this verse. Again, we should remember, he is not telling us not to do inquiry or not to discuss subtle topics. The main point is study of Vedanta should start benefiting us. It should not become another title that I add on to. I know so many things, now I know Vedanta also. Next verse is about Siddhis. Siddhi means supernatural powers. Ashta Siddhi, Navanidhi ke Data, Asabaradina Janaki Mata. We saw the details there. If somebody asked Ramana MaharshiJi, what is your opinion about Siddhi? Very clearly he says, this verse is so powerful, if we understand it, we will never get distracted on the spiritual path. Either seeking it in ourselves or seeking somebody who has it. You see what Bhagavan says. Siddhasya vittihi sata eva siddhihi. Siddhasya vittihi sata eva siddhihi. Swapnopamana khalu siddhayonyaha. Swapnopamana khalu siddhayonyaha. Swapnah prabuddhasya katham nu satyah. Swapnah prabuddhasya katham nu satyah. Satisthitah kim punareti mayam. Satisthitah kim punareti mayam. Siddhasya vittihi sata eva siddhihi. Swapnopamana khalu siddhayonyaha. Swapnah prabuddhasya katham nu satyah. Satisthitah kim punareti maya. Siddhasya satah vittihi eva siddhihi. Of that person who has, or for that person who has realized the truth, knowledge of the truth, staying awakened to the truth, that itself is his accomplishment, siddhi. Siddhasya sata vittihi means staying awakened to the truth in the midst of everything else. That alone is siddhi. I mean, just think about it. Perception is happening of duality, and he is able to remain awakened to non-duality. That alone is his siddhi, not anything else. Anyaha siddhayah, all other siddhis which are there. What siddhis are there? Clairvoyance. You get some premonition. Or other siddhis. Walking on water, becoming small, becoming big, reading somebody's mind. He says all these siddhis, how does he look upon it? Anyaha siddhayah kalu swapna upamanaha. What value he would give to dream, same value he gives to all other siddhis. Swapna upamanaha. Swapnah prabuddhasya katham nu satyah. If somebody asks, why does he give that importance to siddhis just like dream? Why does he consider siddhis to be like dream? Ramana Maharshi Ji says, somebody who has woken up from dream, how much importance will he give to dream? Because he has woken up, dream doesn't look attractive anymore. This is just in the case of that person waking up from dream. This person has woken up from Maya. He has awakened to the truth, understood through scriptures. What is that reality? Now, from that standpoint, he is giving no importance to any of these siddhis. Did you notice one more point here? Why is Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ji saying this? Siddhis are just like dream. Where are siddhis rooted? Or who does siddhis? Atma or Ahankar? Ahankar. That is the main point here. If anybody has fascination for siddhi, either in themselves or in somebody else, that is one way of Ahankara to protect itself. Siddhis cannot be in Atma. Siddhi cannot be in inert body. It is accomplished through Ahankara only. So there Bhagavan says, Swapna prabuddhasya katham nu satya. One who has woken up from dream, why would he give reality to dream anymore? Will he give reality? Katham nu satya? In that way is asking. Sati sthitah punaha mayam eti kim. Just like that person who woke up from dream will not again go back into dream or give reality to that dream. In the same way, person who has woken up to the truth, will he give reality to Maya again? Means will he consider that Maya to be real and again enter this realm of samsara through this siddhi? So we have to answer that question for ourselves. Actually, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, one whole chapter is Vibhuti Pada, where different siddhis are given. And those siddhis, if you read, it's not, something which is just made up, or Patanjali Maharshi is not just writing it like a Purana. He is not just creating a narrative and writing it. He says, if you do this, you will get this. He tells the method also. For example, all the yama niyamas which are there. For each yama niyama, he gives what is the siddhi that comes by holding on to that yama niyama uncompromisingly. For example, he says, the one who holds on to satyam, his words become satya sankalpa. Whatever he says will come true. Then all other things also he gives different siddhis. But at the very end he says, seeker of truth should not run after these siddhis, because they are the ones which are going to become obstacles. Means it can cause competition also. somebody else who is doing yoga abhyas hai, he is Siddhi and second person Siddhi. He got it more, I got it less. He says, don't go into these Siddhis, they are an obstacle. There is one nice anecdote in the life of one saint, Sant Dnyaneshwar Maharaj. During his time, there was another yogi, Hatha yogi, whose name was Changdev Maharaj. And Changdev Maharaj had so much of tapasya in his Hatha yoga. He gained lot of siddhis. So much so that he extended his own life through Hatha yoga practice. And through all those things, he had gained one siddhi called as Bhuta Siddhi. Means you can control elements. You want to light fire, fire will light. You want to bring wind, wind will come. You want to bring rain, rain will come. Bhuta Siddhi it is called. So he attained all this Bhuta Siddhi, but still in his heart, he was little discontent. Somebody told him there are 4 saints living there, Dnyaneshwar Maharaj, Nivruttinath, Sopandev and Janabai, Muktabai. This is 4 of them are there. You write to Dnyaneshwar Maharaj. He will guide. Then he starts writing. He takes a nice paper, starts writing. People tell him this Dnyaneshwar Maharaj who is there is a young boy. And by that time he was very elderly person. To start a letter, you have to address that person, right? Something you have to say. So first he must have written, Dear Dnyaneshwar. Then he said, I cannot call him dear because he's such a great person. Then he said, Respected Dnyaneshwar. Somewhere his heart did not allow. Why should I call him respected? Like this, he kept changing and he could not understand how to address this saint, this little boy. So what he did was he sent a blank letter. Blank letter he sends to Dnyaneshwar Maharaj. And his sister, Muktabai, she says, several years of Hatha Yoga is worth this blank letter. Means he went after Siddhis. This is all he has. So Dnyaneshwar Maharaj writes 65 verses and sends it back to Changdev Maharaj. The one who had sent that blank letter, he writes 65 verses directly talking about falsity of Siddhis. Our mission as a book, Swami Purushothamananji, in Marathi he had composed. Translation of that is available in Hindi. Changdev Pasashti, 65 verses. Starting with the falsity of Siddhis. This is purpose of human birth is to know the self, not to get caught in any of these Siddhis. But the beauty of that composition is examples. Whatever examples are used in traditional Vedanta, all of them are collected in one place. This time when I went, I got one Hindi copy for myself. One example I will share. He says, when you make sweet in a vessel, no matter how sweet it is, how delicious it is, you try to mix it in that vessel. That vessel cannot taste even a little bit of sweet. No matter how good that sweet is, vessel cannot taste even a little bit. Like that, he says, our sense organs, no matter how much they try to understand sweetness of Brahma, they cannot know Brahma as an object. Like this, he gives all simple examples and he sends it back. Changdev Maharaj is surprised. Just looking at the depth of his answer. He said, I sent a blank letter. This is what I get. 65 verses on absolute truth. Then he says, I have to meet him. I have to go and meet all these 4 saints. But still that ego was there. I am such a great Siddha. So he says, I will not go walking. Because he had tamed all the elements, He had even tamed animals. So he sits on a tiger, takes a snake in his hand to show that I have this siddhi, and goes towards the four saints. Now, all of them were children, four of them, they were sitting on a wall. And they see Changdev Maharaj coming on that tiger. As he's walking, as he's coming closer, their wall starts moving. So their Vahana becomes that wall. That was the last straw. When he sees that, he surrenders to Dnyaneshwar Maharaj. That CCMT book, the cover page is this picture. Dnyaneshwar, our Changdev Maharaj coming on that tiger with snake, and four siblings sitting on that wall, and that wall moving around. I mean, these were Mahatmas who had great siddhis, but they themselves want us. They are not sadhya. They are not something to be sought after. If you read the life of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, that third line will come alive. Swapnaf prabuddhasya katham nu satya. One who has woken up from dream, will he give reality to dream? We know that he had throat cancer. Puju Guruji shared this in Navavidha Bhakti. Somebody comes to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and says, you are such a great devotee of Mother Kali. If you ask her, she can cure your throat cancer. And his answer was, my bhakti was not for this purpose. That so many years I cultivated love for God. In this ripened state, I should not ask something so mundane like this. Shiva Mahimna Stotram, we had seen another example where his cousin, Hriday, he comes to him and says, there is so much of difficulty financially. Why don't you do something? He says, my tapasya is such, I can fill this whole village, Kamarpukur, with gold. Only if it was real. If it was real, then it was worth doing this siddhi. That is this line, Satistita kim punareti mayam. Person who is established in the self, why would he give reality to Maya again? It is not his sadhya. So if you want one line summary for this verse, Bhagavan is telling us, self-abidance is the only real attainment. Self-abidance is the only real attainment. Now Bhagavan is in a very different mood. He says, whatever instructions were given by scriptures, even if it is repetition of Mahavakya, after the work is fulfilled, he says, even that practice has fulfilled its purpose. You need not hold on to anything. A very advanced state, huh? We have to understand it very carefully. Soham vicharo vapuratma bhave. Soham vicharo vapuratma bhave. Sahayakari paramarganasya. Sahayakari paramarganasya. Swatmaikya siddhau sa punarnirarthah. Swatmaikya siddhau sa punarnirarthah. Yatha naratva pramitir narasya. Yatha naratva pramitir narasya. Soham vicharo vapuratma bhave. स पुनर्निरर्थः यथा नरत्व प्रमितिर्नरस्य वपुः आत्मभावे सोहम विचारः परमार्गणस्य साहाय्यकारी. Vapuhu Atma Bhave means so long as there is notion of I-ness in body, Atma Bhava means notion of I-ness in Vapu. Vapu means body. Until that point, repeating or reflecting upon Mahavakya, Saha Aham, that kind of vichara, in the attainment of the absolute, Paramarganasya, to attain that Paratattva, it is Sahayakari, it is helpful. What is helpful? This idea or this understanding, this clear knowledge, I am not this body, I am that consciousness. I am not mind, I am consciousness. This understanding is helpful, repetition of this is helpful, until the notion of identification is there with anatma. That Vapu can be Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, or Karana Sharira. Vapu is not only Stula Sharira, because our identification is there with mind also. Until that identification is there, Bhagavan says this vichara is helpful. Mahavakya vichara. That reality I am. Saha aham. I am not this conditioning. I am that reality. But just like in the case of a person who thought he was a man, but he was thinking otherwise. But once he gets this clarity that I am a man, by repeating, I am a man, you don't have to keep on repeating. So the fourth line will come first. Yatha narasya naratva pramitihi. Just like in the case of a person, once he gets this clear knowledge that I am a man, naratva pramitihi. Swatmaikya siddhau saha punaha nirarthaha. This repetition of saha aham in gaining this self-abidance, it is not needed anymore. One need not keep holding on to even Mahavakya. Brahmakara Vritti also is not something one has to hold on to. But we should remember, when is it said? After it has served its purpose, one need not hold on to. Means once you climb a wall using a ladder, then we can remove the ladder. But if I remove the ladder before climbing, or if I remove it in between, neither up nor down, that should not happen. Means Saddarshanam expects that we appreciate what Bhagavan is telling us. The Naratva example which is coming probably comes from the theater play that people used to do in olden days. Men would also act as women. And they were so involved, so engrossed in their roles. For several months together, they would practice. So much so that their voice, their style of talking, everything would be just like a woman. Now, if somebody who has done it with so much of sincerity, if let's say some person is there who remains with that idea even after the play, then what will be the advice given to that person? You are a man. You are a Nara, not Nari. But after he has gained this knowledge, then that repetition is not necessary. This same concept was elaborated in Atma Bodha, where it said, Bhagavan Shankaracharya said, Ajnana kalusham jivam jnanabhyasat vinirmalam. Kalusham means impurity. What is the kalusham? Ajnana kalusham. Ignorance about my infinitude is the impurity. How will it get cleansed? Jnana abhyasat vinirmalam. Abhyasa means repetition. Which abhyasa? Jnana abhyasa. Means I have to constantly repeat Shravanam. Constantly do Mananam. Then repeat this Mahavakya. I am that truth, infinite reality. Like how we did in meditation today, right? First quieten the mind down. Then pay attention to that self which is always present, which we often miss because of thoughts. Mind is so chaotic, the silent truth is missed out. Then again, keep repeating this Mahavakya such that our notion of finitude goes away. Ajnana kalusham jivam jnanabhyasat vinirmalam. Then the second line is interesting. Krutva jnanam swayam nashyed. This thought of Mahavakya is also a thought. Just like we have thought of different objects, Mahavakya or Brahmakara vritti is also a vritti. But the beauty of this vritti is Krutva jnanam swayam nashyet. Having shifted our attention to the truth, having created the knowledge, that thought also dissolves. Like jalam kataka renuvate. In water, if there is impurity, they put some alum pieces. Those pieces will take those impurity, cleanse the water first, and they themselves will settle down. You will not have alum pieces floating. Like that, this Mahavakya will first remove the impurity that I am this person. I am this ahankara. Having done that, it itself will dissolve. You know, when you fly on a flight, international flight, they show you, right, how much distance is there. Until you reach there, you keep checking how much more, how many more hours. But once you have reached there, you did not check again. Until you reach, it says checking is meaningful. But once you have landed and reached there, again you did not check. Like that, until a person feels I am a jiva, repetition of Mahavakya is helpful. But once knowledge has taken place, he says even this repetition is not needed. Okay. You all must be knowing that famous example following the same Naratva example. If I start, you'll say, oh yes, yes, this I know. The person who thought I am a cat. If you are new, I'll just say this quickly. There was a person who started thinking suddenly, I am a cat. Wife got very annoyed. What kind of thing is this? I am a cat, always goes and hides under the bed, does something strange. He said, let me take you to a therapist. So the therapist sat down for hours together, listened to him, and finally told him different logical things why he is not a cat, he is a man. So he said, keep repeating this. I am a man, I am not a cat. I am a man, I am not a cat. After 5 hours session, he comes out, tells his wife, I am a man, not a cat. Wife is very happy. She says, finally, he got it. He comes out, then suddenly comes running into the doctor's office again. Doctor said, what happened? He said, there is a pit bull outside. He said, pit bull, you should not be afraid, right? You are a man. You can fight that pit bull. He says, I know I am a man, but that pit bull doesn't know. This example is given to show mere repetition will not help. Just like that person was repeating, I am a man, not a cat. When Mahatma Ji said, we repeat, I am Brahma, not a jiva. Just like that pit bull, world stands up sometimes. And suddenly I start feeling I'm a jiva again. The point is repetition with understanding. Mere repetition will not help in doing dukkha nivritti. Okay. All these pointers are very, very specific to Shuddha Advaita Vedanta. Whatever things Bhagavan is telling us, right? Next verse also is so powerful. It will align our quest in the right direction. I'll just introduce that verse. Bhagavan says, he's trying to break one notion here. Generally, what we feel is, right now there is duality while I'm bound. One fine day will be there, one day will come when I will get liberated and this non dual truth will be known to me. Means one day I will see non duality. Right now, I am seeing duality. Or, in other words, when a person is bound, there is duality. Only when a person is liberated, there is non duality. I'll give a more applied version of this. Duality, non duality, if it confuses you. If somebody asks, are you one with God or are you separate from God right now? What will a person answer? One answer could be, right now I am separate. Maybe a day will come when I will become one with God. Jiva is different from Shiva. One day, Jiva will become one with Shiva. Another applied side. If somebody asks, is world real right now or is it unreal? What will the sadhaka say? Right now I'm still on the path. Right now it is real. One day will come when it will become unreal. If somebody has notion like this, Bhagavan says, read the next verse. Dvaitam vichare paramartha bodhe. Dvaitam vichare paramartha bodhe. Tu advaitamityesha na sadhuvadah. Tu advaitamityesha na sadhuvadah. Gaveshanat prag dashame vinashte. Gaveshanat prag dashame vinashte. Paschachalabdhe dashamattvamekam. Paschachalabdhe dashamattvamekam. Dvaitam vichare paramartha bodhe tu advaitamityesha na sadhuvadah. Gaveshanat prag dashame vinashte. Paschachalabdhe dashamattvamekam. Vichare dvaitam. Paramartha bodhe tu advaitam. Vichare dvaitam means while I am still a sadhaka, while I am still conducting inquiry, at that time there is duality. When I gain knowledge, paramartha bodhe tu advaitam, then one day will come when there will be non-duality. Iti eshana sadhuvada. Such kind of thinking is not good. This is not the right way to think. Why does Bhagavan say this? He says through an example. Gaveshanat prag dashame vinashte. This is the story of 10th man. 10 people going to cross a river, and one person, the leader, is counting without counting himself. 9 people he counts and feels that the 10th man is drowned. Now, even while he thinks 10th man is drowned, while he is counting the other people, the 10thness is still there. It is not that while he is counting, the 10th man is lost, and after that wise person comes and makes him count again by including himself, the 10th man is again gained back. Paschach labdhe dashamatvam ekam. Dashamatvam means 10thness. After finding the 10th man, the 10thness remains the same while they were searching and after they have found. In the same way, he says the Dvaitam, duality which is there. Even while we think we are bound, what was there was Advaitam only. It is just like saying, when there was a rope, in that I saw a snake. While I was seeing that snake, were there two things or was there only rope? There was only rope. Although perception might be there of two, there was no real entity called as snake. If I say there is real entity, snake and rope, that means duality I have accepted during inquiry. I mean, just imagine or pay attention to the importance of clarity that comes. Having gained this knowledge, the clarity should be, I was never bound to begin with. Having understood that I am not ahankara, the understanding should be, there is not a time when that shift happened. I was never ahankara to begin with. Jagat was never real to begin with. This portion is very nicely elaborated in Ramcharitmanas. You know where? When Saptarishis come to test Parvati Ji. That portion in Balakanda, where Parvati Ji does tapasya to get Lord Shiva. Saptarishis are sent to test Parvati Ji. Saptarishis make one statement. They say, Lord Shiva became Nishkama after burning Kamadeva. See, one who is diligent student pays lot of attention to details. Parvati Ji is a very good student. He says, repeat that statement again. What did you just say? They say, Lord Shiva became Nishkama after burning Kamadeva. He says, Lord Shiva became Nishkama only after burning Kamadeva. What about before? She says, Bhagavan Shiva is ever Nishkama. Not that he became Nishkama after burning Kamadeva. That is this line. Huh? During inquiry, there is duality. And after knowledge, there is non-duality. One should not have this idea. There was non-duality to begin with. I was thinking that there is duality. Okay. Now we are almost going to conclude this text, 39th verse, maybe one, maximum 2 classes. You might be wondering what is our next plan after this text. I was also thinking, different ideas, different perspectives. One thing is this morning text is a time, which is suited for many people. And we have mostly done Vedantic text. What all did we do? We did Kenopanishad. Only Kenopanishad, right? Anything else? No, only Kenopanishad. After that we started Saddarshanam. So we will start Bhagavad Gita Saturday mornings in this time. We are doing Bhagavad Gita in Lincoln, but we started with first chapter. So imagine by the time we reach 13th chapter, how many years it will be. And all of them are important for our sadhana, right? The way Bhagwan has elaborated the topics. So we'll start with 12th chapter little later, and I'll bring different perspectives. If you want Bhashya reference also, we can do. And most importantly, our Balvihar teachers. We could not have a separate satsang for Balvihar teachers. We used to do that earlier in COVID time. So this time would be a good time even for them to join. So please to encourage all of them to come and join. Bhagavad Gita 12th chapter. But for now, we'll first conclude this verse. Any announcement? No announcement. We have our Mahaperyavar Aradhana Puja. Whoever is able to join can stay back. We will also start Mundaka Upanishad Tuesday, Thursday. If you are looking for a new text to get started, this is a good time. That will be with Bhashya. Books are available in the bookstore. Tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om